time for Reading Between the Words podcast, where you hear the story behind the book. You get to meet the author themselves and hear their story and the why for writing their book. Books of real life, stories that come to life. Fact or fiction, there is mystery, intrigue, and there's laughter. There may be books for business or how to overcome challenges, or who knows what the next book will be. Join us for another great book and guest right now.
But is there one thing you really want me to ask you or to concentrate on today?
Well, the progress of my writing goes from Crossroads, the suspense novel, into Crossroads, the life balance workbook that I feel like we all kind of have a need for. My approach to it, which was writing from a fictional perspective to providing a guidance in the workbook aspect of it, and then doing another. So that's kind of where I'm going with my consulting too. I like this one's life balance. The next fiction novel is the victimization and how we buy into that. And then we end up being victimized because we buy into it. And then there'll be a workbook for it also.
All right. We have Rhonda here today. I am really excited to meet her. She's a new author to me, but she has such amazing work for you. It's not work as in, oh man, there's work I have to do, but work as in, I am so excited to do this because it's going to get me to where I want to be. So, Rhonda, tell us just a little bit about yourself.
I would love to. And thank you for having me. You know, this is such a blessing for us to talk about not only just the journey of being an author, but what it's like and being to go from the first word to ending to getting it published. Imagine that. All you out there that love writing. My journey is like many. I grew up in a small town of Noblesville, Indiana. There wasn't a lot of entrepreneurial authors out there that would go out there and say, hey, I'm going to write a best-selling author. I would be a best-selling author. And also I had learning challenges. So for me, even though if you look at every picture of me when I was younger, I have a book in my hand. But at the same time, you know, I went to a school that you had to pass an English proficiency test before you could graduate. Well, guess what? I didn't pass the first round. And my teacher's like, I'll tell you what, you know, let's go ahead and let's try this again. Let's, you know, and I will tutor you over the summer. And she became my first real mentor. I'd never had a mentor. And just think of all of us out there that need some guidance or help, or one of the young ones out there that you might even know that needs some kind of help. So she took the whole summer with me. We sat on her floor, ate cookies, and went through the English grammar. And I found out that it wasn't that I couldn't learn it. I wasn't taking the focused time to do it. For me, I'm so busy trying to rush through things and not sitting still that I was just making mistakes. And still today, that is how my brain works. If I'm typing a text message or something, I have to go back, maybe even the next day, and go back if I want to make sure everything is correct. It's just the way my brain works. We're all different. We're all made differently. So I went off to college, never thought any more about it, became successful in college. So I went from a mediocre, you know, performer to a student because of this mentor, which is so important to my journey. So I went and got my associates, bachelor's, master's, doctorate, went out into the world of business, but I knew that this was an area that I really wanted to excel in. So one day, after getting a little gig on a memo that I wrote that had a typo in it from my boss, I decided, you know what? I'm going to write that best-selling novel. I'm going to sit down and do it. So I began penning my legacy one page at a time. So all of you out there that have a story, that is my biggest thing. One page at a time. If you do 1 page a day, it's done in a year. Think about it. Novels are no more than 365 days, right? Or pages and days. So you can do it. So I transformed my ideas of the story and made it last.
Wow.
So to everybody out there that has that enjoys writing or maybe enjoys reading, sometimes you have a story inside you and it becomes from storytellers. I'm sure you've known storytellers in your life, and here you go.
Oh, yeah.
You're sitting with them just always, whether it be coffee or a drink or whatever, you're sitting there and it's like, boy, you made me want to relive that moment again. So it's really about the storytelling, write, inspire, and repeat.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And I'd like to thank Sean Ram from Scars and Stripes Coffee, who is a veteran. And this is one way that you can help a veteran get going where they need to go. He's doing really well now. He's actually doing a handyman type work, but he's got the coffee on the side still. It's really, really good coffee. I love the aroma of it. Kona is my favorite coffee. Next to that is this coffee. That's how much I like it. So thank you, Sean. And this is for you today. So Rhonda, tell us about your book. I know you have more than one, but show us one first and tell us just a little bit about it. Why you actually wrote this book.
Okay, so let's start with Crossroads.
Okay, there you go. Great.
So Crossroads is a suspense novel. It's based out of Indianapolis. So even though it's fiction, it's all real sites. So there's the city county building, the circle, the history of Holiday Park, and the dead bodies dropped behind 38th and Guyan on the railroad tracks.
Wow.
So what my purpose is to impact people with a story. Now, for me, the story, although fiction, also follows how people navigate their life. So the main character, Paris Pennington, is an IU grad that went into finance, works in one of the skyscrapers in Indianapolis, one of the first ones, the AUL building, which is now the Salesforce building. And she worked there and she gets a jury notice. And when we all have been in that position where we get a jury notice. And she doesn't want to go, of course, because she's a workaholic. She's out of balance. She has no time for anything but what's there in front of her, which is her work. But she goes and she decides, she tries to get out of it. But of course, that's just not the way our legal system works. Once you're caught, it's up to the prosecutor and the defense and the judge whether you're allowed to leave. So she ends up being part of the jury. It's kind of like an Agatha Christie type of feel where you get the clues all the way down the line, and she is there for the duration and her whole world starts falling apart because when you give a workaholic anything outside of their box, what happens? Everything starts falling apart. So this
like
is like
a house of cards.
Yes, and what ends up happening to Paris is people around her start getting sick. People around her start dying. And everybody in the IPD department that's involved in the case is trying to find out why this young woman has all these things happening to her while she's during the jury trial, but even after the jury trial.
Oh, wow.
And so what I wanted to do was empower voices.
Okay.
And at first, when I first wrote it, the first draft, I really focused in on the injustices in the legal system. She would see the young man walking that looked like, he was 12 and, with the officers being, in a chain gang kind of life. She'd see, the parents of the victim's family. And she realizes that her life's not being fulfilled because of her workaholic tendencies, which in the Midwest, we all know that our identity, and we're raised at a very early age, our identity is our work, right? So you have to work to be successful. So she is questioning as she's in this process, what's going on with her life. Well, then the characters took over. Any of you out there in psychology or medical, I'd never done a novel before. So I took a soap note approach to making those characters more alive. And a soap note is you go in.
I'm going to ask that. Yeah, yes, say it again.
A soap note. Now, have you ever had a soap note done on you at your doctor's office where they say, "Oh, tell me about your eyes, your nose, your mouth," and they go through every system of your body and they know the whole history of your life, medically and psychologically.
Oh, wow.
And when you do that, when you go in and they ask the questions, they're taking notes. And they're saying, this is what the patient said, they broke their ankle when they were 5 and all of these things. And what ends up happening is the characters kind of took over, because I realized one has anxiety, one has emphysema, one has all these different things as I'm doing it. So it changed their behaviors, which changed the outcome.
Yeah.
Because all of a sudden they had behavioral learning, psychological profiles that empowered their voice in each chapter.
Wow. That was really unique thinking on that. And it sounds, I like stories with a lot of twists in them. And that twists and turns, you never really know who done it until the end of the story.
And that's what my hope was, because all of us have a story that's in our soul, and then we've experienced things. And so I found that turning passion into pages and dreams into dialogue, I was able to pull these behaviors out of the actual characters to make them create a world. And that's one of the reasons I picked the backdrop that I did today. We all look at things from a different perspective.
Yeah.
We all look down at ourselves and our lives at different times and reach crossroads. So after I wrote it, though, I let it sit. At first I had a traditional publisher, and they, pulled out after 2 years, and then it sat, and then I found a hybrid approach to it, and a company that would help me not only follow the traditional path of publication, but also get the benefits of the self-publishing, where they helped with the marketing.
Nice.
And it's company's called Mindster Media, and we came up with an approach of getting the book out there, getting it, in people's hands. And then they, at the very end, and this is something that I highly recommend people, it's something people don't think about. Who is going to endorse or write the forward for your book? And when they said that, I had to think of everybody that may have gone through a crossroads in their life, had challenges that they had to step over. And, and I've come up with some teachers and some people that might have courage and resilience like the character. And they said, no, that's not the right one. It's a suspense novel, but it's also a mental health model.
Right.
And so I said, well, who do you recommend? And they said, well, we think we need to query Merrill Hemingway.
Really?
And I'm like, well, why would she even care? She's a Academy Award-winning actress, model, author herself. And then, of course, you can't leave her grandfather out, Ernest Hemingway, old man.
She's gone through a whole lot herself. Yeah.
Yes. And I'm like, why would she care? And she said, well, because this kind of models her thinking and her brand and her thoughts. And we think that she would find it not only empowering to others from a legacy perspective of people thinking about how wisdom and actions matter, but it also fits her mental health model, because she's a big advocate of people, taking time for themselves and having intersection between their wisdom and action. So I said, well, I'll give it a try. What do I have to lose, right? It doesn't hurt to send a letter. And so I drafted the letter, and then it took about 2 or 3 weeks. And then I got a email back from the publisher saying that she had agreed to endorse the novel.
Oh, that's very nice.
Yeah, and what she ended up doing is writing the foreword. We came to an agreement, and here again, remember everybody, this is a business agreement. They get something out of it, but it's a huge benefit to have someone people know, and someone can believe in your work as much as you can. And then they sent me a YouTube video that she did, and it's called Rhonda Parker. Merrill Hemingway praises Rhonda Parker Taylor.
Wow.
So
Amazing.
and I listened to it, and I was like, oh my goodness. And for a small town girl that had learning challenges, that had gone through life with challenges, being able to put all that together and embrace that life's journey in that moment was, you think the book's thrilling? Imagine the thrill for you as a writer, that somebody actually took the lessons that you put in a book and put it into a YouTube video. So she goes through and describes the book kind of like I just did. And then she says at the very end that we all come to a crossroads where we have to decide which way we're going to go and what's the right path for us. And she talked about her own crossroads and how, sometimes she had challenges that she had to go, even though you think of her, as a person out here in the audience like me or you or anybody else. She's like the higher part of the pendulum in hierarchy, right? And then she said at the very end, and I sent chills down my spine, it said, even chocolate has an expiration date. And I was like, oh my goodness, she got it. She understood that all of us, when we're making those decisions, sometimes it's tough. And one of the main characters, Billy Knuckles, he knew he shouldn't have gotten in the car with his friend, but his peer pressure told him, go ahead, it'll be fun. It'll just be a big old party. And the young man ended up killing the girl. And so he had a choice not to get in the car. Then he had a choice again. Do I turn state on this person I've known all my life?
Yeah.
And so we've all been at crossroads. It could be a relationship. It could be a job. It could be our finances where we're not handling them right. And so we all hit that crossroads where we have to realize that sometimes life is just not as easy as we think. And we have to turn the lessons into legacies.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh man, that is one powerful book. I definitely need a copy of that book. That's great. But in addition to this really powerful book, you have another book, right?
Yes, and it's coming out after Christmas. So if I can get it. And this is a self-help book. So it takes the characters in Crossroads.
Okay.
Journey to life balance. And it uses them as case studies in case people, related to them, but it's also about you. It's about the people that are listening. And it takes every crossroads in your life and it makes it an invitation to evolve and choose wisely.
Yeah.
A good example in psychology, they tell you, if you would wake up tomorrow and you had the exact life you always wanted, it was perfect. It was the miracle that happened to you. What would that vision look like? And you start there in the workbook, and then you say, okay, what am I doing now? And you start talking about the things you like doing and that you described, and then you look at your calendar of all the things you're really doing. And most often, I've been doing this with my classes at the college level for years. And most of the time, we're all out of balance. Even me. Even let's say I just did it 3 years ago and I do it again. I find out I've resorted back to too much television, too much, whatever it is that you're joy. So it takes the 13 dimensions of life as I feel is appropriate. Because when I've gone to self-help books, they usually just do life balance and career. They do spiritual. They don't have an overview. So it takes all 13 and has you and works you through exercises to make goals for 1 year, 3 year, 5 years. So you can just do incremental changes in your health, your spirituality, your physical, your emotional well-being, your spirit. I keep on wanting to go back to spiritual, so maybe that's where I focus. Your integrity, your finances. There's 13 different ways. Your relationships, and I find that when I go through these exercises and reevaluate, I'm like, oh, I could just do this. I could add berries in. For me, a good example is physical. Sometimes we don't make changes like we should.
Mhm.
We know, okay, wait a minute, I'm sitting too much. I'm not doing enough. It's not about a diet. I was always, when I was younger, wanting to go on a diet. It's not about that. It's about being healthy. And my
Yeah.
doctor said, hey, you're diabetic. You need to change this. And you have scoliosis. You need to change that. And I didn't do it. My husband said, you're going to turn into a chair. And you mean going to turn into a chair? And of course, when you get offended, you're not finding the humor in it and all that kind
Yeah.
of stuff. And then the life balance part of it, and I'd added some things, but I hadn't done the physical work. And I went to the chiropractor and they said, you've got piriformis now. That's why you have pain. And I'm like, well, what's piriformis? And they tried to describe it in technical terms. And then I went home and Googled it. Google can be. And it said, butt wasting away. I turned into a chair. So I had to make changes. I bought the Varidesk, I bought the pillow, all the things to make my spine healthy. All those are little things. Stand up while you're working. Same thing. What about your loved ones? I work a lot. I bought into the culture of the Midwest that's your identity. But sometimes it makes my loved ones feel a little isolated. So what am I doing to make them isolated? And I can do that easily. When I have a late night meeting, send, a note, send a text, a video saying, what you appreciate them. It doesn't have to be a trip. See, so we thought that we have to do these big outlandish things when really it's just knocking on the door saying, hey, I appreciate you.
Yeah. Good words. Good words. Well, tell us where we can get your books at.
Okay, so in Indiana, it's a little different right now because I have a holiday book tour coming on in Indiana, and at 4 of the Barnes and Noble stores. I'll be there signing for the holiday. The 16th, the 23rd, the 7th, and the 14th. Throughout that, you can go to my website and you can see where those are if you want to come in and meet, greet, get a signed copy for yourself or others. Also, obviously Amazon is a big distributor of books. Barnes and Noble's website, BAM's websites also carry it. So any of the major platforms, they could get a physical copy or an ebook. They're both out there. And I am having on the ebook side a holiday sale, which the ebook is only $2.99 right now.
Oh, sweet, sweet. And what's the name of your website?
It's RhondaParkerTaylor.com. Can't get any easier than that for people.
That's right. And thank you, Rhonda, so much for being here today. I really appreciate it. I love your books. Give us the titles again of both books real quick.
It's Crossroads. You can see the railroad tracks, Crossroads, right. Rhonda Parker Taylor. And then Journey to Life Balance by Rhonda Parker Taylor also.
Awesome. Awesome. And we'll find it on RhondaParkerTaylor.com. So
yeah.
Thank you for being here, and thank you, our audience, for being here.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Make sure if you love to read and love books that you follow, share, like, because she's trying to bring you the best thing that you can out there, that for not only just the big blockbuster books, but all the local authors too. So support, make sure you follow and then listen.
Oh, thank you. I really appreciate that. We'll see you next time.
Thank you, my front porch friends and neighbors, for pulling up a chair with me and my guest today on Wisdom on the Front Porch. Now, if you've got value from this conversation, would you do me a favor? Leave a quick review, then share it with someone you know who could use some inspiration. It helps more friends find their seat on the porch. And hey, Make sure you're subscribed so you never miss what's next. Until then, keep the porch light on for new wisdom every time you show up. Your seat's always here for you on the porch.